Hello, my name is Ben Knoll, and I am the Director of Patient-Centered Research at the Global Healthy Living Foundation and Creaky Joints Patient Community. I'm also the Principal Investigator for Arthritis Power Research Registry. That's our patient-powered research network that we started about 7 years ago with colleagues at the University of Alabama at Birmingham, including Jeff Curtis. Today, I'm providing an overview of our oral presentation presented November 9th, titled Participant Engagement and Adherence in an Arthritis Power Real-World Study to Capture Smartwatch and Patient-Reported Outcome Data Among Rheumatoid Arthritis Patients. It's abstract 1979. So to give you some context, given the availability, the widespread availability of things like smartphones and smartwatches like a Fitbit or Apple Watch and other digital devices, it's important for us to understand patients' willingness to engage in research with these kinds of devices and to be able to characterize their ability to adhere to the digital study tasks and see how complete the data is that we're able to get from them. So this was an analysis of data that's actually part of a bigger study called Digital. So it's digital tracking of arthritis longitudinally. But in this particular abstract and in this analysis, we were looking specifically at the participant engagement and adherence. So we wanted to characterize their engagement, their protocol adherence, and also the data completeness in this study. So to talk a little bit about the design of the study, first we had a lead-in period. And essentially the lead-in, or some people call it a run-in period, was to be sort of a tryout period to make sure that participants were able to complete the daily digital tasks that would be required of them in the study before we shipped them somewhat expensive smartwatch in the mail. So in the lead-in period, we asked them to complete some daily PROs, pain and fatigue, the numeric rating scale for each of those, so one-item measures, and also weekly EPROs, or electronic patient-reported outcome measures, during that 14-day lead-in period. And we wanted to get the daily data at least 10 of those 14 days. So participants who successfully completed that lead-in period, so of course they were recruited, they registered for the study, they began the lead-in period within the Arthritis Power app on their phone, which was available both for iOS and Android platforms. And then if they were successful at completing at least 10 of those 14 days during that lead-in period, then we would ship them a smartwatch in the mail. And in our case for this study, we used a commercial grade smartwatch. We used the Fitbit Versa. And along with the smartwatch itself, there were some other study materials, instructions and so on, so they could set themselves up and participate in the main study of this project of Digital. We did that, of course, because we wanted to make sure that people were committed, basically, and habituated to completing their digital tasks, and at least were familiar with part of the process, providing the PRO data, before we layered on this other element of setting up a smartwatch, syncing it, charging it on a regular basis. So then once they receive the smartwatch and set it up, then we continue to track their PRO data and their smartwatch data over the next 3 months. We also had a lead out period, although we don't look at those data here in this part of the study, for an additional 3 months where we wanted to see for how long they would persist in continuing to wear the smartwatch. So as the study progressed, our study coordinators monitored patient data and would reach out to patients to resolve their adherence issues. So if they noticed that we were missing their smartwatch data, for example, we had a priori triggers that we knew. We had a whole set of rules that would trigger different types of engagement depending on what we were seeing happen. At the same time, we also had some automated reminders that were going out via email and also lock screen notification. so that between the automated reminders and also keeping an eye on the real-time data that were coming into us, we could identify relatively quickly if there was an issue and with which participants, and then reach out to them manually if we needed to try to help get them back on track. So the way that we defined adherence to the data collection during this main study period was essentially providing at least 70% of the required data within that 84-day period. So remember, that's including both three different types of data: daily electronic patient-reported outcome measures, the pain and fatigue; weekly, a longer weekly set of EPROs; and then also the Smartwatch data. So we asked that they complete at least 70% of those 84 days of daily. We wanted to get at least 70% of those 84 days of Smartwatch data, and we considered a Smartwatch data day to be complete if there were 80% or more of the total minutes or time of that 24-hour period collected. And then for the weekly, we wanted to get at least 9 of the 12 weeks of weekly assessments. So over the 84 main study period, we had pretty good adherence. So we had greater than 80% adherence on both the Smartwatch data and on the weekly EPROs. So we had 87% of people provided their weekly EPRO data at that standard, and 82% participants provided Smartwatch data at that standard. Daily EPROs were a little bit more challenging. So that was about 57% of participants were able to complete it at least 70% of the time. And when we put all of those three different types of digital tasks together for a composite adherence definition, just over half were able to meet that adherence definition. But we were excited to see that we got such high adherence for the weekly and the Smartwatch data. We also found that 9% met neither Smartwatch nor PRO adherence, but 29% met the Smartwatch adherence, but not the PRO adherence. And then we had a smaller percentage who did meet the Smartwatch adherence, did not meet the Smartwatch adherence, but they did meet the PRO adherence. So it was interesting. I think that Smartwatch data was a little easier for people, as we might expect. And it's part of what's attractive about these kinds of passive data collection measures, is that it's a little bit easier because patients don't have to do anything quite as active as logging in and entering their data. So another thing that I should point out is that we were able to characterize, based on the lead-in or baseline measures that we're collecting from people who enrolled, who was which patients then proceeded to the main study period or past the lead-in period. And it looked like patients who were participants experiencing higher levels of pain and lower levels of physical function during the lead-in period were more, in a greater proportion, were completing the EPROs, but not adhering to the Smartwatch use once they did advance to the main study period. So in conclusion, compared to other digital RA studies, like the PARADE study that was conducted a few years ago, I believe GSK conducted this using AppleKit and the iOS platform, we had very good adherence in this completely virtual study. Participants were well engaged, and we got greater than 80% adherence over those 12 weeks for the kind of core or key data types that we're looking for. So this was good adherence, it should be noted, despite an onboarding process and the study itself being entirely remote or entirely virtual. So potential reasons for this include the fact that, one, we included a lead-in period as a study design element. Two, we had a patient-centered custom app workflow with user-centered design. So we worked with patient participants to test it and design it and build it so that it was user-friendly and pretty clear and helpful for patients as they were completing the study. Three, we had active monitoring by study coordinators who could see on a daily basis how patients were doing in terms of completing their assessments and getting their Smartwatch data in. And we also had the automated reminders that were going out to everyone regularly via email and lock screen notifications. We did find that adherence varied by data type, with the highest adherence for weekly EPROs, but the Smartwatch data was not that far behind. And we also found that if participants had greater pain or fatigue, it may have been more challenging for them to qualify to participate in the study. So there's a potential trade-off here in generalizability, but we may have to just keep that in mind as we design future trials in this way, that we may want to reduce the level of time commitment to make it more feasible for some patients. And the other interesting thing is that it was possible for us to characterize a profile of the RA patient who is more likely to regularly engage with these digital data tasks, digital data collection, which will help inform the engagement in what we can predict or anticipate for future app-based real-world evidence studies. In short, the real takeaway here is that we wanted to better understand how patients interact with these kinds of digital tasks, smart technology, in order to provide information for a study. And we also wanted to understand how we could do that and what methods seemed to be effective at helping make that happen. I should also point out that the study was funded by Eli Lilly and Company, and that we have completed data collection and will be publishing on this information very soon. So thank you very much for your interest, and have a great conference.